up along the way if we see her. Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to session 2 of the Capital Improvement Program Committee. Today is Friday, June 30th, 2023. We have 2 departments' presentations left. We have Fire and Public Works. So we'll begin today with the Fire Department's requests. Following this meeting, the committee will take a couple weeks to rank all of these requests, and then we'll have a third meeting where we discuss the rankings and the funding. So at that point, we'll bring up now Deputy Chief Kopp, and we'll start with the fire requests. Welcome.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Being that this is my first CIP presentation, I'll just jump right in. I'll go right in order from the packets that's out there. And I guess the first one is the Fire Station 1 replacement and land acquisition. The idea there is we are way over capacity as far as outgrowing Station 1 on Grand Avenue with our office space as well as our apparatus space, and just overall repairs of the building are millions and millions of dollars worth of repairs that need to be done in the next couple of years, if not sooner, with that building. So what we're looking at is it's very hard to find an area in that proximity to build a new station if we were to get to that point. And what is ideal with the studies that we've had and from private companies is the old Wausau Floral property, which is just south of where we're at right now. And what we're looking to do is purchase that property while it's available, with the idea of building a new station in the near future. So I guess that's the idea behind this proposal for CIP, and I'll be willing to entertain any questions you might have on that.
Okay, and this particular property, I think we talked about last year also and ranked it. This allows for movement in the back and out the front, right? Rather than trying to pull the truck in the front and turn it around like you're doing today.
Correct. A lot like Station 2.
Yeah.
The new way of fire department builds is to have drive-through fire stations. So what we'd be looking at is the layout, and we've worked with 5 Bugles already for some layouts and the amount of land that we would need. Obviously but with that purchase of that land, we might be looking at having to purchase a couple houses in order to do a drive-through station rather than pulling and back up, which is a safety concern all the way across the nation. So that's the idea there. Yep.
Well, and there'll certainly be some time for that, but by the time we get all the planning and things done, and then we take a look at, the borrowing schedule as well. Does anyone have any questions about this property? This is the same one. Go ahead.
Morning, Chief.
Morning.
I know you're saying it looks like we would look at the floral property, its size and location, and specifically, when you look at it, seems to be probably one of the best solutions we've had in years for a project like this. But the question I have for you, sir, if you don't mind, I have a Ram 1500, and I've gone down into that area on Floral there, and then wound up having to go through the alleys with reduced visibility and stuff. And I don't know the size, as we talked about for a minute ago, the width and length of your trucks, and I certainly have never driven one of them, and I'm not looking to do this. But the challenge that I have is, as you present this, you don't provide any additional information on the potential cost of the other properties, and exactly which properties would you take? Because if you take the first 2 properties and you want to make a left turn to go west on Thomaser, and then as you get to the intersection, you have to make another left turn to go south, it would appear, sir, that you would be interfering a lot more with the queuing of West or East Thomas Street at that particular intersection. So it might be helpful for the city council, it might be helpful for people like us, if we had a little better idea of how you would approach that. Certainly driving through makes a lot more sense than what you have, without question. But I have a lot of concerns about how that would set up, how we would do it, and it might be helpful for the city council and for this particular group of people if we had a better idea how you would approach the queuing and other items.
Right on. I think that,
Just a quick question, though. When you had the preliminary, like the feasibility study for the site done for the property by 5 Bugles, is there a sketch of a design for how it would sit on such a site?
there's a rough sketch, yeah, and there's a couple different options, and if that's what I'll break into. I don't have it with me.
Well, I was hoping if it was in PDF, you could maybe email it to us.
I can do
So we could
that.
see it in between.
Yep, for sure.
Would be helpful. And then the houses that we had talked about last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they're next to the site. Aren't they behind it?
With that drawing, the initial drawing would coming out on Grand Avenue with the whole front apron, like we kind of have right now on Grand Avenue, rather than just a single driveway. Comes out that way with the drive-through coming in from the backside, which I think was 2 properties.
On the backside
rental.
though, but not the 2 to the north between that site and Central? No, there's
Correct.
2, okay, that's,
But that's another option, which I can speak to a little bit here also, is not being locked down, with options depending on how we want to do it for the safety of traffic, which is a concern. There is a small, if you want to call it slope in Grand Avenue there, or a hill that does affect viewing emergency vehicles coming in and out. We do have, our ambulances sit higher and our fire trucks sit higher than a normal pickup truck or a sedan for that sake. So it's a little nicer in that regard to being able to see that the traffic does slow to 25 miles an hour there, I believe. And like we did at the new station too, put lighting and signs up so that we can hit a button when we leave the station so that it warns oncoming traffic that emergency vehicles will be coming out of the building. So with that, we could look at coming in from Prospect for a drive-through, or we could look at turning the station and coming out onto Lubner or even Thomas, and then coming out to the streetlights that way. The feasibility studies for our response times puts us in that general area with this station to get to any of the, we want to get on scene within 4 minutes. So, crossing the bridge is essential, and being close to Thomas Bridge Street, or Thomas Street Bridge is essential to meeting those requirements and our goals. So there are different ideas there, but those are great concerns, and I think there are solutions for it, but on the same token, it is something we need to look at and talk about how we want that station to face and how we want vehicles to come out.
yeah. And
Madam Chairman.
Originally, when Central Fire was constructed early in its life, didn't it have the ability to control the signals at Grand and Thomas, that when the doors went up, the lights would change and you would clear whatever was in the way, green lights, and then they
Yeah.
could leave?
It did.
Would
and
we
that-
be looking at anything like that for this, or does that not exist anymore?
I guess it exists. It's actually, I might be the only person left at the station that knows how to work that downstairs. It's been decommissioned. That used to be the case when we had a watch person that would sit up in the dispatch area in the front of the station 24 hours a day.
Yep.
And can control the lights in the station, the overhead doors for coming in and going, and as well as the street lights. I don't know if it's that essential anymore with emergency vehicles as loud and visible as they are.
Yeah,
We
they're
can
hard to miss.
generally, get to the street light, make enough noise where everyone stops and proceed through. So I personally don't know that that's a necessity, but it's definitely an option that could
Yeah.
be.
I just wondered if there was a new high-tech option, other
Yeah.
than run someone over there to flip the switch.
Well, we do
but-
have, and what are those called? Opticoms? Opticoms on our vehicles that, once we activate our sirens and our
Yeah.
lights, they do turn the street lights to green for our sake and red from the
Okay.
from opposing traffic.
Sure.
So we do have that on
That's
our
helpful.
vehicles.
That's helpful. Ed, go ahead.
Last year, I believe a member of this committee suggested that while you were going to research some of the things that you've answered today, and you've done some work, that it would be, I think the term was imperative for you guys, whoever was working this, to work with the city engineer or the city planner and make sure that there were going to be no long-term plans that would cause additional concerns later. So if we built it, one of the things I think we hear sometimes is, you built me a brand-new road, but you didn't put cable in, so you had to tear the road up again to put the cable in. And yeah, maybe cable paid for it, but now you have a patch instead of a nice smooth cap. And it's my understanding that nobody may have approached that and addressed that issue. And I think that might be also worthwhile while you're, putting this together. Thank
Not
you,
a bad
Madam
idea.
Chairman.
Every once in a while, we'll find that we have an errant sewer lateral somewhere that we didn't expect from, 1930 or whatever it is, and all of a sudden, when you go to dig that up, that adds 6 figures. So it's probably a good idea to have a little bit of a utility overview of the property too, and just make sure that there's nothing in there that would be a surprise. But,
I think that's a great point. With the size and weight of our vehicles, we already need to put in more concrete than what your average driveway
Yes.
would have. So, and, with our station right now, both front and back are failing with some pretty big potholes and sinkholes and broken concrete. So I think that's a great point, and I'll look into that. I believe Chief Kajawa even may have started that conversations with city leaders, so I'll dig into that a little bit more and look into that. I appreciate that.
okay. And if you have the preliminary site study in PDF, just maybe send
Share
out
that
an
with you
email.
guys.
Yeah, and, because we'll have a couple weeks that we can look at that while we're doing the scoring too.
And if you send it to Emily, we can
Oh, yeah.
distribute it,
Emily
because she
can.
has the whole, but it's.
Perfect, yeah. You can send it to Emily and she can forward it out.
I will do
So-
that.
Any other, Gary, go ahead.
I'm new to this, so I didn't see the prior years with regard to, but is really Thomas and Grand really the best place for this fire station? I see all kinds of issues, especially with the Grand Avenue, 3 lanes, 2 lanes. And I don't need you to answer that, but I question that. And a year and a half ago, we had a property across the street that was vacant, and then so where was the planning in selling that land so that we have to buy more land across the street? Because it seems to me that triangle could have maybe served as the new firehouse instead of, now it's affordable housing, granted, but I think we need really to sit back and think about, because we have the police department also. I think this is a larger issue than just locating the fire department across the street. I think that there's really a need for looking at that whole block and maybe even more with regard to how we move the social services is out of that building down on the street on Grand Avenue. Does that now serve maybe as administrative offices for public safety as well, the police department as well? I don't know, but I'm
Right.
just sort of saying that maybe we need to take a larger look at this and see where the city is going to be going in 10 years. I mean, do we need another smaller firehouse somewhere else to take the pressure off of number 1? I don't know that, but I'm just saying, I would think that a larger approach to how we deal with public safety, the police department, the fire department, and as we go forward, and I don't know where that is, if that's in this committee or CISM or whatever, but this is a large project for the new firehouse. It's going to be a large project for the city, and I just want to make sure that when we do it right,
Right, and in the best location.
and in the best location.
Yeah, we had asked some of those questions last year about maybe a site feasibility study, and they had delved into some of that, because at least for their central response, they want to be basically in the middle, rather than, on the outskirts. And, years ago, at one point, there was chatter about maybe another smaller station on the north end, depending on what the expansion looked like to the northwest. But, and then we just, at our last session, heard the police department tell us they need more room. And we had said to them, well, fire department goes across the street, can you use that site? Well, maybe they can retrofit the building, but they certainly could use the land either way. But, I think we should have an eye on the needs of both of them when we make both decisions, to make sure that, we don't find ourselves in a position where we go, geez, I wish I'd have done whatever, 5 years after the thing is built, because that one will have a hefty cost. That Station 2 was it 5 million or 7 million? And
6.2, I think.
6.2. And so now with the cost of construction and just the sheer size difference, that's going to be a big, big project. So anyone else have any questions for Jeremy on this one? If not, we can go to their next item, which is bunk room dividers.
All right. So bunk room dividers, I think what we did here was put in for talking about Station 1 and Station 3. Going back a little bit to even our last conversation that we just had, Station 1, when it was built in the 70s, was considered a state-of-the-art station. But in the 70s, female firefighters weren't even really a thought process. Now we're up to 6 female firefighters. We've become a more diverse city, a more diverse fire department. And it's just not set up for, number one, female firefighters or privacy of any firefighter for that matter. Basically what we have is just a big area, a big open room with some single beds in it to get the little bit of rest that our firefighters can get at night in between calls. And with our alerting system, the red lights come on and you just have a lot of things happening in that room that aren't very private for anybody, nor do we have a place to get away to unwind after a stressful call. Sometimes you just need a minute to decompress after some of the things that our firefighters and paramedics see on a day-to-day basis, and we just don't have that at Station 3 or at Station 1. So what we're looking for is, outside of building rooms, which would be HVAC costs, electrical costs, and all these other things, we looked into dividers to give this sort of privacy to each of our firefighters, a lot like our new Station 2 has. And with those dividers and a sliding door, they would have privacy for changing clothes, getting ready, and getting dressed to go on the next call, and getting out the door, and being able to come and decompress on your own when you need to after a stressful call. So I think that's what we're looking for here. It's $115,000 to outfit both dorm rooms at Station 3 and Station 1 with these 7-foot dividers. And you wouldn't need to do any HVAC because they don't go all the way to the ceiling, as well as we won't need to do any electrical work. So I think that's our more viable solution to these older stations without dumping too much money into them and too much renovation. So that's kind of the idea behind this proposal, as well as, looking back not too long ago here in the heart of COVID, Station 1 and Station 3 being the way they're set up compared to Station 2, COVID ran a little rampant through Station 1 and Station 3, while our members at Station 2 didn't get ill with COVID during our responses and things like that because of their privacy, because of the way the station's set up, decontamination-wise, and the availability to not spread germs. So.
Okay. Does anybody have questions on those dividers? It's pretty straightforward.
Just one
Michael,
quick
go
one.
ahead. Sure.
Are these dividers, I don't have a whole lot of information on the dividers themselves, but are they like purpose-built for sleeping, or are these like office dividers that are being repurposed for a dormitory-style living, or?
Yeah, so what we did was we went with Samuel's group, who supplied our dividers for our inspectors. Right now our 3 inspectors, our division chief, and our admin analyst are all in one room, so we needed some sort of dividers and desks. It's the same idea as those, except they'll go up 7 foot high, and there's room for a small closet, or a drawer, I should say, 3 drawers, 1 for each crew, and 1 bed. So that what that would mean is every morning, when that crew member leaves, they would put all their bedding and private belongings away, and the next crew member would come in, just like at Station 2, and remake the room for their next 24-hour shift. So I can't speak to whether it's a setup for dorm rooms essentially, but what it is privacy with a sliding door at a cost that's a little bit more bearable than doing a full-on remodel.
Okay, yeah, I guess my concern is that office dividers is a little bit different than, for sleeping arrangements, where maybe the cleaning standards might be different, so it's...
Yeah, I mean, they're just cubicle walls, if that's what
Okay.
you're asking.
Okay,
Well, and I think there's probably some choices to be had between hard-sided and fuzzy. You know, I mean, from a cleaning standpoint, and with an office, depending. I mean, if there's some that, you know, from an acoustic standpoint are, you know, softer and upholstered, and some that aren't, that may be easier to maintain or clean. So I think that's maybe a consideration. But I think getting any measure of privacy now, I mean, I think at some point we all have toured, we toured the old station, we toured them all, like 4 years ago. And so knowing that the large bunk room that exists at Station 1, it's not surprising that COVID tore through there first. I mean, just because there's such close proximity. Even between bunks, it's close. So, yeah, I think that, you know, if we could, we know that there's going to be some time before we reconstruct either one of those facilities. I mean, even Central. So I think we have to have an interim solution. And, you know, this one certainly doesn't break the bank, but it would buy a few years until we, you know, get off the ground with whatever we're going to do with Central Fire. And way after that would be something maybe with 3, but right now it's in pretty decent shape, so.
Yeah, and I just had the opportunity to help City of Madison Fire Department with a promotional process, and took the time to go around with their chiefs and look at some of their stations. I think they have 13 stations, some of which have rooms like our Station 2, and some that are just divided by curtains that the firefighters put up. And with those curtains, there's our sanitary concerns with cleaning, dust and all those other things that happen, as well as contaminants that get on it, that these hard surfaces are easier to clean and disinfect. So it was overwhelming how they recommended hard surfaces compared to curtains, as well as, you know, making sure it doesn't go all the way to the ceiling so that your HVAC isn't affected. And it was just, you know, like I said, we're talking about a city that has multiple stations with different setups, and it was overwhelming how they recommended this for a solution, so.
Okay, good to know. Go ahead, Gary.
So, what, like, for instance, number 3, I get number 1, that's sort of, we're in a transitionary stage. But with number 3, a fairly new station, what would it take to make that, retrofit that to the state of the art? Do we have the room there? Do we have the room to do that? I would just as soon, while we're thinking about this, to at least do number 3, you know, complete retrofit, so we don't have to be thinking about this, you know, down the road, because I think that this is really something that needs to be done, and instead of just a temporary fix, what would it take for a complete fix on number 3? I get number 1, but let's do, you know, set the standards that we did with number 2. Is that feasible or not because of space? I forget the exact space that we need in number 3, but I think we should really be thinking about, let's do it right, at least with number 3. It's a new station. I don't think we'll be replacing that one for a while. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I think Station 3 was done in 1981, 83, I can't remember. But it is, you know, there's enough space there. I've measured, there are only 5 windows in the dorm room right now. We would need 6 dorm rooms, but there's enough space to put 6 dorm rooms in that open dorm right now, just by me measuring. I haven't had a company like 5 Bugles or anything come in to do that. As well as looking up in the ceiling, that is once you open the drop ceiling, it goes all the way up to enough space for a second floor, to be honest, which would be a huge renovation, but it is an option. So I think you do have the space for building permanent dorm rooms, at least 6 of them, which is what we'd need with our new staffing rollouts. Not even talking about the lack of parking, but that's a different issue. But yeah, I think we could put 6 in there. Obviously, there'd be a bigger cost because they're talking about HVAC, electrical, and all the other things that go along with that, permanent walls, the ceiling, and all that. But I think that is an option, and I really appreciate you bringing that up because it's I mean, that's the dream compared to a temporary cubicle wall.
I think that's a dream that we can make maybe in the meantime until we decide what we're going to be doing with number 1, but at least this is a fix. I mean, we have to bring number 3 into the 21st century eventually, and and maybe not now, but at least I think get it on the short plan, but that's just me speaking today.
Well, yeah, even if we had a more substantial renovation to 3, specifically for that purpose, on a future CIP, I mean, let's assume that we would fund this divider solution at number 1, because we know we have quite a bit of time there to wait. We certainly could parse out a dormitory-style renovation at 3 in a future year's CIP as well. Ed?
The question I have for you is, if you take, for instance, number 1, I'm going to start there, and we invest the money to put the dividers in, which are obviously needed, okay? What is going to be the return? So if we put the dividers in, how long will it extend that life of that building before we have to go, and take it down, have another station? And then I talked briefly the other day with Chief Blevins when he was here, and I asked him about, will we be, the bays, would they be able to be Sally ported and worked in that direction? And he said he wasn't thinking that at all, and the office space you have, or area for office space, would probably entail a major redesign. So, we're going to spend some money, but maybe we should understand, for like Station 1, if we put these dividers in, how much time does that buy us for your department, and how much time does it buy for the police department, and what will it take to, reinvent those bays that makes that work? And you have kind of the same thing. At 3, you got to do it. I don't have any question with that, but how long does it extend the life of the bay? And how long should we plan on it extending before all of a sudden we're facing the situation of Station 3 now needs more space and better dividers?
Okay, I'll start with the dividers, and then we'll get into the bays here. With the dividers, I don't think it extends the life of either station. It's just a temporary fix to privacy, really, as well as welcoming our firefighters and our diversity, really. We're talking about recruitment and retention. The city of Wausau is no longer a stepping stone for firefighters. It's a destination, and we're very proud to be able to say that, and we've worked hard for that over the years. So one of those things is, when it comes down to choosing a place to be a firefighter or a paramedic, do you want to go somewhere that doesn't have privacy, or do you want to have somewhere that does have privacy? So extending the life of the station, I don't see that being the case. Being able to reuse them in a future station, or with a different department, I think that's an option. I don't think they just get thrown away if and when we build a new station. So I think it's not a throwaway item, but it doesn't extend the life of the building at all. As far as the bays go, last year at CIP we were approved for a partial funding of what we asked for to remodel the app bay at Station 3, which we're in the process of doing right now. And that's new drains, fixing the trip hazards, the broken concrete, and all those other things. So the app bays, other than not being a drive-through app bay, is going to be a great place to see once it's done here at the end of the year. So
I
that
have
extends
one more
life.
question, if
Go
I
ahead.
might.
Certainly.
Madam Chairman.
Yep.
Also, the question would be, is there a chance that we could go to one of our universities, the UW system, and look at somebody who is in architect and engineering, 2 different people who might be trying to look for a project for their masters or even just to graduate, and have them help us get some initial items, drawings and things, and then have them give us some ideas about, well, here are the drawings we think it could do, but here's some of the actual equipment. Now, I'm wondering if that wouldn't save you and the staff some time for them to do kind of the basic research, and then you guys take that and spin off from that into a aspect of having an idea of the newer, better opportunities or equipment that could be done.
Sure. Are you speaking for both stations, 1 and 3?
Yeah, I would do it as, yeah,
I mean, I think it's a great idea to explore. I would, at first glimpse, when you talk about a company like Five Bugles who we used for Station 2, they do it every day and understand what fire departments and cities' needs are compared to maybe a college student who doesn't know the actual needs. So I'd caution that, but it's definitely something we could explore and work with them and get ideas. It never hurts to get more ideas.
True.
my thought process on that, Chief, was for you to get someone that understands the drains, understands the connections, those things, and then kind of run those through your mind, because you can look things up, and I know you guys do it all the time, on the internet and see how well that fits in. And then I'm wondering if, once you have some of that and it looks pretty good, that doesn't mean it is, but it looks
Yeah.
pretty good, then when you're dealing with Five Bugles, you can say, we were thinking about some of these things that have been done in other places. Otherwise, most of those kinds of companies, from past experience, they have kind of cookie cutter. You have cookie 1, 2, 3, and they're very good at it. They don't shortchange you. I'm not suggesting that. But if you have some people out there that are kind of just throwing some ideas out, and you kind of look at them and say, hey, that's not a bad one. And it doesn't cost, and if it doesn't cost very much, that might be something that helps you kind of get them moving in the direction you want to go instead of just the narrow path. That's all I
Yeah,
was thinking
I
of.
think that's worth
Okay.
consideration.
We
Thanks.
certainly can think about that. Okay, so we're past the dividers, now we're on to, this one's pretty straightforward as well. Station 3 needs a washer, extractor, and dryer, and some storage for turnout gear, right? So that's your project 3.
Yep, and that
Yes.
was part of the CIP request from last year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to secure that kind of funding last year, so revisiting that now, what we run into is Station 2 and Station 1 have those capabilities now compared to transporting contaminated items, turnout gear, tools, and those sort of things to Central Station to wash and dry. So the turnaround time to get back into your first set of gear, which is the NFPA compliant gear, compared to maybe some backup gear that's outdated and aged. At Station 2, you can turn around and wash your gear and dry your gear in an hour and a half, 90 minutes, and be back in it, compared to 24 hours hanging it at Station 3 or the old Station 1 dryer. So Station 1 and Station 2 can do that. Station 3 is not capable. We are, part of this remodel in the app bay is plumbing and getting it set for future purchase of this, and I guess that's what we're asking for right now is funding to purchase a gear washer and dryer.
This is the piece that we split off last year to do the app bay, right? Like
Correct.
we split the project over more than 1 year to pare it down? Okay.
Yep.
Gary?
So we have space and everything is set for that. I mean, where I'm going with this is as I was speaking before, with regard to number 3. So if we're looking at in the future some kind of retrofit, and all this is, you have enough space, I guess I'm wondering about the space of number
Yep.
3 right now.
So as soon as we have the remodel done in the app bay here, hopefully by the end of this year, with the contractors and working with Leo and getting that done, that's all part of it. So there won't be any retrofitting need to be done if we are able to purchase
So
the
so
dryer and
this
washer.
is sort of planning into that, oh, thank you.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions on the turnout gear washer? If not, we'll score that accordingly. That is the last of the fire projects. They only have 3. So thank you, Deputy Chief Kopp, for that presentation. And we'll watch for an email from Emily if you find that design for the central fire.
I will get that today. Thank you all for
Awesome.
your time today.
Thank you so much. The next department is Public Works, and under that umbrella is Streets, Facilities, and Motor Pool. So do we want to start with Streets first? We'll bring up Dustin. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so the first project we have here is a phased project, so this is something we've started in the past, looking at facilities. Last year, we were kind of directed to look at doing a smaller phase of this instead of doing the whole Public Works facility with streets and motor pool. So this ask is to continue with our fleet replacement project over on West Street, where we're currently looking at. And so, does anyone have any questions for me about that? I don't know.
This is just the site purchase and tear down, right? Because the feasibility and the environmental work, the analysis of the site for feasibility is already in progress, right?
Correct.
So, I
Yes.
mean, if we, assuming that comes out okay and SISM and finance make a decision that they want to buy it, this is really the next step, right?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have questions on this at all? This really would then, depending on the outcome of the testing and things, allow the funding in the budget for the city to go out then and buy the West Street site and then tear down the stuff that's on it that isn't reusable. Does anyone have questions on that at all? That one is pretty straightforward. I think we're good on that one, and your diagrams are good. So,
Okay.
okay?
The next one is a roof at our Myron Street location. So a few years ago, we did the flat roofs over our parking garages and stuff like that. This is the north end of the building where we house our electrical department, paint shop, sign shop, and then we have other like engineering vehicles and stuff parked up there and some other storage. And we have the shingles are starting to fail. They're coming off the roof. We're finding them in the parking lot, stuff like that. So we're just looking at, we don't currently have any water leaks yet, but this is just planning to get ahead of it so we don't start having leaks.
This is just a question, but I know the cost of roofing has gone up in the last few years shockingly, but would there be an option for us to go with a metal product on that roof that would last longer maybe than asphalt shingles?
There is, I'm sure that's going to add substantial cost to it, but we could look at doing something like that. It's currently shingles right now, so I guess that's why I kind of
Yeah.
went that route.
Be
You know, we
curious
are
what
talking
the
about-
price difference is. I mean, it doesn't need to be a metal product that looks like asphalt shingles that essentially doubles the price, but, you know, maybe even a straight metal product that, you know, maybe would have a little longer application versus, I mean, it depends. Sometimes you can get 20 years out of shingles and sometimes not, but,
Yeah, I guess the quotes that I got for it, they were talking, you know, we know they say they'll last 30 to 50 years, but they don't always last that long.
seldom do, yeah.
Yeah, but being a phased project, I was, you know, thinking down the road, you know, how much do we want to stick into a building that still needs, you know, to be addressed down the road,
Well, that's
too.
true enough, especially if some of the office staff would move to West Street, maybe, right? With the fleet folks. So, yeah, you're right on that. Anyone else have questions on the roof at Myron Street? Go ahead, Gary.
You just raised a question. So what else is needed at that building down the road? I mean, if we're thinking of, I guess I'm always looking, you know, we're going to be facing issues with this building 5 years down the road?
Well, there's definitely lots of issues with this building. So in the past, we've had multiple studies on our facility, and it was actually recommended to build a complete public works facility. So the street department, everything. But we're trying to, you know, cut down how much we're going to have to borrow and spend all in one chunk.
All at one-
So, yeah, I guess that's why I was kind of leaning towards shingles and something less expensive, because we still have needs in this building. The building we're living in was built in the 50s.
So
think
we
the last
plan on
time-
using this building for a long time yet?
Well, that kind of depends on how quickly we can move forward with the next phases of the process, you know, to try and update the rest of the facility needs. We don't have enough space, you know. It's obviously old. I think the last time we did any major renovation there was in the early to mid-90s, and it was designed to get us through to about 2003, 2005. So we're several decades past when it was really designed to get us through. So there's a lot of need in the building. You can see, you know, I put some projects together for, you know, subsequent years, just because we're going to have to keep fixing
Keep
until
going,
we
okay.
do something with it, yeah.
Right.
Thank
I mean,
you.
that's kind of an elephant that we decided we wanted to eat one bite at a time because of the cost of the fleet facility. And the fleet needs were so pervasive compared to the other needs. In fact, with the fleet stuff out, the space that they occupy could even be, you know, maybe used differently than what it is today. So we thought maybe if the fleet facility, which is a huge cost, would get down the road and get done, that, you know, then we could address some of these other needs that are coming up at that building. But if shingles would buy us, you know, at least 20 years on the building, I'd be fine with an asphalt product. Plus, there's the issue of matching. If there's multiple sections of this building, we may as well go with something that is functional and doesn't have to be, top-notch metal stuff, so. Does anybody have any other questions on the roof at Myron Street? Next, it looks like we have office repairs.
Yep, I included some of the pictures there. That's some more issues we've had with the building. Since we've had the project next door, we've had some settlement issues in the building, so
Oh,
you're
sure.
seeing a lot of cracks in the walls and floors and stuff like that. So it's going over some of that and updating some of our offices. We have, they haven't been updated in quite a while, and just trying to make them livable for a while, I guess. I mean, they've well outlived their life.
Okay. Does anyone have questions on those maintenance type upgrades to the office section? That's pretty straightforward also. What do we have next? LED lighting?
Yep, this was a project. Obviously, LED lighting helps us with our energy costs, stuff like that, and so we're just looking to kind of upfit the rest of the facility, go around, and we every year we knock off some and we try and do some more, so this is just trying to finish out with what's left and get the rest of our lights converted.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I'm going to ask about this because it's something I brought up when we were talking about closing the McClellan Street ramp. We replaced the lighting in that ramp, maybe 2 years ago, with LED lighting. Is there any possibility of reusing that in the DPW facilities?
I'd have to see what kind of lighting. I'm not familiar with what's in the ramps, but we could definitely, I could talk to our electricians and see if there's anything that we could reuse.
That's a significant investment, and I'd like to know if that would be, if those lights would be appropriate for this type of lighting project.
Yeah.
I
If
could
we
do
could,
some research
if we
on
could
that.
recycle some of those even into the vehicle storage building or even out into the garage bay. They may be too big for some areas, but, okay, yeah, that's an important cost influencer if we have the stuff already. Any other questions on LED lighting? Okay, looks like the next project is fence and gate replacement.
Yeah, so this project was the north end of our facility along Adrian Street. We have a couple of gates there. Now with the sewer facility, they actually replaced the swinging door gate and part of the fence. So this would actually just continue to replace the rest of the fence over to our parking garage on the corner of Myron and Adrian, and then also to replace that gate. The gate's had issues for years. It's had wear and damage over the years, so it's really hard for the guys to open and close. So there's actually a lot of days, unless they really need to get in there, they don't even bother opening it because it's doesn't
Difficult.
move well and stuff anymore. So this project is just to update some of that. You can see in some of the pictures, some of the posts and stuff have been damaged through
Yeah.
plowing operations and different things like that.
Yep.
So it would just be fixing up the fence along the north end of the property.
Okay. And I noticed on the sticky note that's on the proposal from at least the one vendor, it says that quote didn't include demolition. I would assume, would you guys take it down yourselves?
I put
Fence?
that in there because when you looked
Oh.
at the two quotes, one of them included it, one
Oh,
of them
okay.
didn't. So that's why there was probably such a price difference, and we would probably look at demoing it
Removing it? I
ourselves
mean,
to
it
save
doesn't,
some
you
money.
have the
Yeah.
equipment and stuff, so.
Yes.
Okay, that would cut the cost down too a bit.
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions on that at all? Okay, if not, we'll go on to the next item on your list, which is, well, that might be it for the streets facility. That's all we got for you. Thanks, Dustin. Now we're up to the replace and rebuild the cooling tower at the police department is the next one on the list.
Yeah,
Hi.
hi. So we're back to the public safety building. So this cooling tower and the HVAC in this building is old. It's beyond its design life. We continue to have problems with it every year. We spend a lot of time on it. Leo is spending a lot of time on it, and actually, this past year, there was a leak in the cooling towers, put water into the basement, and that's just a continued problem. So initially, when we started looking at it, I believe it was around $600,000 full replacement. Leo's been working with some different HVAC contractors trying to figure out, how can we pare that project down to correct the issues that are there now, and still utilize as much equipment as we can. And so we're down to about $200,000, but it's a significant cost. But it does need to be replaced and repaired. And we will continue to stick, thousands of dollars into it, I think, every year. And the potential of failure and building damage continues to be larger.
In the photos in the book, it certainly looks like a monster.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as, just the sheer scale of it. And then, of course, if it's not functional.
correct.
So, okay. Obviously the thought is to kind of fix what's wrong with this one and hobble it along, but assuming that we would come to a point of replacement, will we be replacing it with something completely different that's less difficult to manage?
The cooling towers themselves, they'd just be updated,
Okay.
so those tower pieces that are in there, and I don't know all the details of it, but that part would be replaced. The remainder of it would remain in, that we'd be able to utilize. And that's where we tried to scale that cost down to
Sure.
replace only what we need to right now with what really is the areas that are failing.
And I suppose the way the building is built, there's not a whole lot of alternate options without major work, because it looks
Correct.
like even the way the intake and stuff is up,
Right.
these pictures, that you
Yeah.
kind of have to stay with this type of
Yeah,
system.
and with the other systems and, and replacing the whole thing, I don't know the details of the structural side of things that would have to be replaced, but we're trying to stay within the same footprint that we have right now.
With its
for
size,
that
it looks
building.
like it was built in there. It just,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
isn't going through a door, so,
Correct.
okay. Does anyone have questions on the cooling towers at the PD at all? That's pretty straightforward as well. Okay? Let's see what we have next on the list. Roof replacement at Firehouse 3.
Yeah, so Firehouse 3, shingle tabs are coming off and we're starting to see some issues. There have been some leaks there as well. And so we've just been patching over the last few years on that roof. So we looked at maybe doing this in phases over the course of a couple of years, but really this is a pretty straightforward roof. And I think that once we get up there, just doing it all at once would be the best way to go.
Right. Plus, it kind of needs to match. As far as if the stuff is all
Right.
different ages and the sun's on it, it
Yeah.
could really look odd if we waited
Yeah.
too long. Any questions on that roof at all? That one also makes a whole bunch of sense. Then that brings us to, do we have one more, don't we?
We do.
Okay. Where is my,
It's another roof
is it?
at the public
Oh,
safety
yeah, yeah,
building.
public safety, yep.
So
Okay.
this is one actually where we have different tier roofs, and so we're talking about a plan over the course of the next 3 years to replace a section at a time. So this is some of these membrane roofs, and just the age of them, they start to shrink, and then they start pulling away from the ballast on the roof, as well as any stacks that are coming through that roof, which causes leaks, and we have to have somebody come up and do those repairs on an annual basis, so.
Yep, for sure. Any questions on that, Gary?
So that's a flat roof.
Yeah, yep, different tiers of,
So
Yep.
why don't we make that an angle? Why don't we put a decent roof on that building to begin with? By that I mean, the words aren't with me right now, but
Pete,
One with a slope,
you
one
mean
with
to
a slope on it?
right.
Yeah, I think that, when we start getting into structural and preparing like a structural gable roof or hip roof and
Gable,
stuff.
that's what I'm looking
Yeah,
for, yeah.
so it would be a much larger cost than what you're looking at now. And typically on the flat roofs with the membranes and things like that, we're getting a typical roof lifespan of 30 years, maybe more, So when we replace these ballast type roofs, that's what we would anticipate as far as a
So you're
life.
still looking for that 30-year life?
Yes,
Even
yep.
in this repair?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can get that out of it, because, I think those have drainage built in and.
They
and
do.
So, yeah, if
Yeah.
if we keep up on the rubber part and the gravel part, we're probably okay, so. Michael?
So you said that this is a three-part project. Is this looking at an overhead picture of the public safety building, you can kind of see the three sections. Is this the largest portion of the building or one of the smaller pieces? Because I'm guessing that the largest portion must be the staff area, and then the two smaller ones is what is that, like that lobby foyer, and then to the north of the lobby?
Yeah, I'll take your word for that,
Well-
that the largest is actually, where all the staffing and stuff is. I didn't look at it in that much detail as far as which areas cover which. So, we kind of divided this up, for the 3 years, as far as, and I'm not sure which one Leo's proposing to do first, the
Okay.
first year. I didn't get into those details with him. He
Well, I was
wasn't
just
able to.
wondering that if this was the large piece or the smaller pieces, so we would be looking at a bigger cost next year, or if we're taking the biggest chunk this year, I guess is.
Sure, that's it, that's good. I could talk with Leo and I could actually get that for you and email that to you.
Well, and as
Yeah.
long as we kind of know which one is worse, the worst first, and if they are all the same price, that's fine. I think every year, everything gets a little more expensive, but as long as he's confident in the 50,000, we can certainly score that, and then let them decide which piece they do in which order, if the money's all the same.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like that is the last of the facility projects. Does anybody have any questions on those? Okay, I think we're good on that part. Let's see.
Thank you.
You bet, thank you. Next one is motor pool. We don't score motor pool, but we do certainly review it every year. Same thing with park rolling stock. There's a cyclical replacement cycle, but we'll bring up Solomon to talk us through this year's motor pool.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
So I have motor pool broke out just like the other projects, 1 through 6, but it's actually one project altogether. They are broken out just so you can see what is going to each department. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Included in the packet is a breakdown of the equipment for each department as well.
Okay. Does anyone have questions on, Gary, go ahead.
Are there additional vehicles across the board pretty much this year? Because every once in a while I see, there's are there new vehicles in addition to what we already have
You're
for
talking adding to the fleet?
adding to the fleet?
So if you look on, for example, the proposed budget in the Public Works Department, there's one that says add, and it's for signboard. But in order to add a piece of equipment, you have to remove one. So I sat down with all the departments and looked at this, because you add equipment, now you're talking more staff and everything else to take care of it. So I met with Dustin and I said, sure, you want a new signboard, what are you gonna give up? And that's how we work back and forth on that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Does anybody have any questions then on those motor pool requests? We have a list of what's coming up, and they have those based on a change-out schedule, basically. Okay. So absent questions about that, thank you, Solomon.
Thank you.
All we will need to do is set a date for our ranking meeting. The proposed dates are the week of July 17th to the 21st. And it looks like we have available times to get this room any of those days other than Wednesday. So the 17th, 18th, 20th, or 21st. Is there a preferred date? Do you guys maybe not prefer Friday? Should we do a date earlier in the week? And that normally doesn't take us real long. It's probably maybe an hour meeting, because they will have had, all of our computations will be calculated. They'll know what the borrowing and the money looks like and the alternate fund sources. And so short of us drawing a line where we run out of money and deciding what goes up and down to get where we want, usually we're not more than an hour and a half at the max, but usually we're pretty quick with that. So, because the numbers are ready when we get here.
I
Go ahead.
wonder too, you've got some pretty big requests this year, and we also have the increase in shared revenue dollars.
Yes.
And so I wonder if, excuse me, this year, we would want to rank them and maybe, assume that we'll fit in with our existing, you know, what we will pay cash for, as we have historically, but focus on having how we want to rank anything over, so that as this moves to finance and they're making, I guess, some larger picture decisions as far as the impact of long-term borrowing, what we want to do with our extra shared revenue, just really making sure the committee focuses on not just the priorities of, you know, what we usually spend, but on if we were able to spend
More.
more.
Okay, so we really should rank them on more of a, like a merit and needs-based approach than with our eye only on the money part.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think we can certainly do that, because, you know, if stuff scores up, we know that sometimes highly scored items still can't all be funded, and sometimes what happens is we'll make our recommendation, and then we, you know, put a pin in a few others, and then when it gets to the finance committee, if they have more money, or they're willing to do more borrowing, they'll take stuff off of our list and push it up above the red line. And, or if they find at the end of a year that they've got some profit and they want to go back to that list and get a little more work done, they can still go back to the list that we had and push stuff up or grab things off that they can incorporate. So, and if departments have savings in other areas and they're like, well, wait a minute, we have this extra money, and this has happened at PD a couple times, but we have this other CIP that didn't get funded, can we do this or that? And so finance has been willing to shift funds sometimes to get them stuff that they didn't think was going to come off the list a little sooner than they planned. So as far as the ranking meeting, how do you guys feel about Monday, the 17th of July?
I would prefer not the 17th.
Okay.
That's sort of a busy day
Okay.
for me.
How about
The rest of the week looks good.
the 18th is Tuesday? We can have it anytime after 10. Are you off any of those days, Mary Ann? Are you guys gone?
No, we're
You're here. You're both here that week?
yeah.
Okay. How about, okay.
Yeah, either the 18th or the 20th will work good for me.
Okay. The 20th, we can get this room right away at 8 o'clock. If we wanted to get it done early and just knock it out and go on with the day, the room is open pretty much all morning. Would 8 o'clock on the 20th be good?
Great.
That's a Thursday? Okay.
Yeah,
So
I'll
let's
take
shoot
that.
for that then. 8 a.m. on Thursday, July 20th. I would say it would be good if we could get these rankings in, we give them at least 5 days. If we get them in maybe by the 15th of July. Check the calendar here. How much time do you think you need? Or do you need them a little sooner? Let me look at July.
Yeah, that's fine.
July, okay, so the 14th is the Friday. So what if we take until July 14th?
Or Monday, you know, like if it was Monday morning.
Yep.
8 a.m.
Okay. Okay, so let's shoot for the 14th or 17th to get everything to Emily. And were you going to send out an electronic ranking sheet so we can do them in Excel
Yep,
format?
I will resend them. I sent them out earlier, but.
Okay, so then we can either score them, that way we can do the electronic entry, or we also have paper scoring sheets in the book, and we can also either drop them off or email them, or get those into the finance office. Either format is fine, because if they come in on paper, you guys enter them for us anyway, right? So, okay, so this is the score sheet that we passed out last time that's in the booklet, and then they'll send out or email out an Excel-based version of this that we can fill in, so. All right, so with that, we're set for next time. Happy ranking, everyone. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Martins, is there a second? Second by Gale. Members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? No one is ever opposed to adjournment. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a few weeks.